Hey there, this lesson is looking at cell respiration, mostly from the aerobic angle. We'll mention a little bit with anaerobic, but this lesson here is to kind of follow up with photosynthesis to see what cells do once they have glucose and how do they actually get energy out of that. Most of the lesson will be focused on the diagram at the very end of this lesson. And if you need a little bit more in depth on how that diagram's going down, I've got a separate video that's kind of set up as a whiteboard lesson that you can watch as a supplement to this. So this lesson's about getting the main context. Let's have a look. Reminding ourselves of where we've been. Photosynthesis. Where is all this energy coming from? Well, we're getting energy from sunlight. Plants are capturing that, and they're turning that sunlight energy, capturing it, as glucose. We call these organisms autotrophs. They are self-feeding. They are the producer organisms. They're making their own food, which is great for the rest of us who can't do photosynthesis, but we still need energy. So all that glucose and then other biomolecules that are made, we benefit from that. So this is where we lead into cell respiration. Cell respiration is that process of releasing the chemical energy from the biomolecules to support our life processes, like this Holstein cow that's in our slide here. It is a heterotroph. It's going to get its energy from biomolecules in food. So whatever it needs to eat, like that grass that's in the picture. Okay, cell respiration is going to happen in all cells. They all need energy. So this isn't something that happens just in animals, it's happening in the plants too. Plants can do photosynthesis. We can't do uh, we can't do photosynthesis. Cows can't, but we all do cell respiration. We have to eventually get some energy out of those molecules. You might be tired of seeing this slide by now, but homeostasis and metabolism. We're going to continue to self-regulate. Cells are going to do whatever they need to survive, and they do that through metabolism. They're going to do these chemical reactions to release chemical energy, to make new organic materials. Previously, we've seen biomolecules getting built. We've seen photosynthesis where it's building glucose, and now it's time to release that chemical energy. Metabolism is showing up in a big way now in cell respiration. One more time, just so we make sure that we don't forget. Cell respiration happens in plant and animal cells. Plant and animal cells both do cell respiration. Some folks get the wrong idea that photosynthesis is what the plant cells do and then cell respiration is what the animal cells do. Everybody does cell respiration. And especially for our eukaryotic organisms, so plant and animal cells, they both have these nice handy mitochondria. They're going to help us do cell respiration very efficiently. So let's go to that last slide and see how cell respiration fits in with mitochondria. All right, the mitochondria. Again, this is more of an overview slide, so we're going to hit the main points. There's a lot going on here. It can get easy to get lost, and especially if you actually dig into citric acid cycle and see that there's, man, like a dozen or so different molecules being exchanged there. We're not here to get even that in depth. What I want you to notice here is this kind of some different color blocks going from left to right, starting with glycolysis. Let's get the big picture. The big picture being who's making ATP in this process? ATP is energy. That's what we're here to get. Cell respiration is about making energy. Like I've done on other slides and in other examples for this, let's go ahead and write the chemical equation for what's going on, and then look for where those parts show up in this diagram. Going into photosynthesis, we're going to put in some glucose. We're going to need some oxygen as well. And when this process is done, there's going to be some CO2 and some H2O. Okay, so what's going to go into a mitochondria and what's going to come out is exactly what you see in that equation. So let's have a look, starting with glycolysis. Glycolysis is our process of breaking down glucose into pyruvate, which can go into the mitochondria then, but that process Happens out in the cytosol. It's outside the mitochondria, it's in the cell, and it's going to make just a little bit of ATP. It's going to make two. I describe this to students as like you're taking one bite out of an apple. And if you all you did was glycolysis, you just took one bite, throw it away. Kind of a waste, but you got some energy. Glycolysis is a way to get quick energy, one bite out of the apple, one bite out of the glucose molecule. But mitochondria can take this through another couple big steps: citric acid cycle and oxidative phosphorylation, or the electron transport chain. Let's go ahead and summarize that here on the slide. ETC, two big processes here in the mitochondria. This first process happened outside the mitochondria, glycolysis, and then our other big two, citric acid cycle, which makes another 2 ATP, and then the last one, ETC. This thing is going to make a lot of ATP, 30 or more. In general, most of the energy is made by electron transport chain. Now, what does this have to do with our equation that we wrote a moment ago? What's going in and what's coming out? Well, we know glucose is going in. Okay, we've seen that. But where does oxygen play into this, and CO2 and the other stuff? Carbon dioxide, the stuff that you're breathing out all the time, is actually made in your mitochondria, and it comes out of this citric acid cycle step. If you are breathing out carbon dioxide, we know the citric acid cycle is working. Okay, it's breaking down the carbon molecule that was the glucose, and it breaks it into smaller pieces. And carbon dioxide is one of those smaller carbon pieces. Last up, what else do we have going in? Well, here's the reason why you breathe oxygen. Glycolysis and citric acid cycle, they don't need any oxygen. They can happen on their own. But when you're ready to do electron transport chain, this is where you're going to need oxygen. Oxygen has to go in to make the electron transport chain work. Okay? You might notice that there's all these kind of hydrogens going around with NADH and FADH2. You don't really have to know about those, but they tend to pass on those hydrogens to oxygen. And last time I checked, hydrogen and oxygen, well, that's a good way to make a water molecule. If the electron transport chain is working correctly, oxygen goes in, picks up some hydrogen buddies, and out comes the water molecule. So that's just in general what's going on here for cell respiration. Mitochondria are going to take the glucose combined with oxygen, and they're going to make a lot of energy, so 34 or more ATP throughout these different steps. And in the process, they're going to release carbon dioxide and water. If you need to see a little bit more on this, I have a second video and another diagram. I'll catch you in the next one.